Hello, Oshkosh Community Media. This is Edward Castor for Making It Happen, and welcome to another edition of Making It Happen. On my side here, I have Tim Kretschmann. He's a pageant cast, plus he's a pageant judge. Thanks for joining me, Tim.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Ed.
No problem. And you want to kind of introduce yourself and kind of talk about your family life, education.
Sure. See, I'm not used to this. I'm usually the guy interviewing, so I have no idea what you're going to ask me about. Well, luckily, talking about myself is something I know something about.
Right.
I grew up here in Wisconsin. I live in Muskego, Wisconsin, which is pretty well where I grew up. Went to local schools and graduated from UW Parkside.
Okay.
Was going to go into teaching, and things changed as I went on, and now I work at We Energies down in Milwaukee, downtown Milwaukee.
What do you do for We Energy?
I am in purchasing.
Okay.
So I work there, but my passion is probably broadcasting and podcasting, as I've done through the years.
Did you take any broadcasting classes at the college, or?
I have to admit, no.
Yeah. But was it always did you always get did you know how some people have it when they're like a little kid, they kind of know what they're going to do like 5th or 6th grade, and they're like, I'm going to go into broadcasting, or did you always want to teach?
I think everybody kind of knew except for me. I did a lot of tape recordings. Remember back in the day when there were cassette tapes?
Those were awesome, weren't they?
I used to sit in the basement, and I would make these little cassette recordings, and I liked, there was a artist called Dickie Goodman, and he did what were called cut-in albums, like Mr. Jaws. And what he would do is he would talk, and then the answer would be apart from a music, a thing of music, you know. So like he would say, well, Mr. Jaws, we don't really want you here, and then it would be, I hear you knocking, but you can't come in, you know, something like that.
I even remember the 8-track tapes where you just put them in, and those good old 8-trackers. So
I had an 8-track, and the problem with those 8-tracks, it was always change program, and it would stop your music for a second,
and it would get stuck, and it would never.
Yeah, and you'd lose it.
So
I think today's youth have no idea how we suffered with those 8-track tapes that just didn't play the music.
Yeah,
you know?
and so on that note, what got your interest in podcast?
Well, I was doing my radio show at the time, so should I tell them about that first?
Let's talk about the German radio show that you did for 17 years. I'm kind of interested to hear about that.
Yeah, I was very involved in the German community with a last name like Kretschmann. My father was the president of the largest German club in Milwaukee at that time. And the gentleman that had the German radio show that I took over passed away rather suddenly. And there was a search to see who could take over the show.
Was it big shoes to fill?
It was. He was a legend. And there were, in Milwaukee, there were 3 or 4 German radio shows, and all of them were on the air for decades. So I was, maybe 20 years old at the time. So my father looked at absolutely everybody in the German community that might be interested in it, and they all said, no, I don't really want to do it. But we saw your son do a raffle at a dance, or we saw him MC at an event. He was pretty good. Why don't you ask him? My dad's like, he's too young. He doesn't speak German. And kept looking, and it got to the point where, it better be my son.
Did you have to be somewhat fluent in German to be on? I mean, did you have to know?
Did
you have to know your German? Yeah.
I proved you did it. I could read it with some ability, but speaking it, I still don't have that ready vocabulary to do that. But I can sit down with a dictionary and put together something. and then have somebody look it over that knows what they're talking about. But I can read it reasonably well. I'm told I have a horrible accent, a horrible American accent.
Do you want to try? Do you want to try on the show and see if you can do it?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's been a long time since I did anything on air.
Okay.
With German, but as I say, you always give it a shot. So, ich spreche nur ein bisschen Deutsch, aber nicht so viel. So that's enough for me.
So what did you just say to me?
I said I speak I don't speak much German, but just enough.
Okay.
Actually, I forgot what I said in German, but that's pretty well the sentiment I was going for.
What were some of your highlights from that 17 years? What were some of your big accomplishments?
Well, we changed radio station 3 times successfully.
Okay.
Because, as you might guess, it wasn't the biggest market for German radio. But we continued on. We had some interviews with some of the top stars in Germany. German folk music is a lot like American country music would be in this country. Okay. It's big, but it isn't like pop music or rock and roll. Okay. And once in a while, people sweep over. But you also have to keep in mind that Germany, the entire country of Germany, is approximately the size of Wisconsin. Okay. So a big star in Germany would be like a big star in Wisconsin. Certainly a little more population. Yeah. But it's a little different. But when you're living over there as well, you can hop in a car and drive to the Spanish Riviera. So a lot of things are different in Europe. But that was pretty exciting. But as time went on, I got kind of tired of some of the interviews. Obviously, I was playing a lot of German music, but I did interviews with local German personalities talking about Oktoberfest is coming up. So the interview would be things like, so when's Oktoberfest? And they would answer, Saturday. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, right.
What time does it start? 8 p.m. Okay, thanks a lot. Right. So the interviews, it needed a little more spicing up. Well, I was at German Fest one night, and it was right after the parade. And just like any parade, you have to have a couple beauty queens. Mm-hmm. And one was walking.
Or kings, right?
Or kings.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, look at the table over here. It's like the crown jewels I'm next to. But this young lady was walking by. She was Miss St. Francis, part of the Miss Wisconsin system. Mm-hmm. And one of my buddies says, why don't you try interviewing her? She'll probably interview well. I'm like, well, a beautiful young lady. Of course I'll go up. And went up with my little tape recorder. Easiest interview I ever had it. Okay. Because, doing interviews, the thing that you can't have is somebody on the other side that doesn't like to talk. You don't have that problem tonight. You notice that? No. So with pageant participants, they're trained in interview. Yeah. And they know what they're doing. So I would ask, I used to have to set up, well, I didn't have to set up records, but I'd have to set up CDs and stuff while I was doing these interviews in my radio station. It was great. I could literally ask, what's your favorite color? And I'd have 5 minutes to do whatever I wanted because they would just go on and on. Yeah. And it was fantastic. And I thought, this is great interviews. Mm-hmm. The problem was I was doing this on a German radio show. It really didn't fit. Yeah. And
you didn't know very much German, so you're like,
right.
It's like, what the heck am I getting into?
Yeah. So I found out about podcasting, and I took to it right away. And when I started Pageantcast, it was basically I had taken some of the beauty pageant interviews that I had on my radio show. Mm-hmm. I just put them out there, and I thought, well, what'll happen, Yeah. And there were a few people that found it, but I started getting contacted by pageant girls that wanted to be on it. And it was real interesting. When I started it, I just had the website. I had about 30 listeners. Yeah. Then I got involved in MySpace. You remember the 5 minutes where MySpace was hot? Yeah, I went on MySpace, and we went from 30 listeners to about 300.
Okay, you're like, I have something here.
I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Then Facebook came around. 300 became 3,000.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, now we're cooking. We're cooking. Now, there was kind of a bubble for independent podcasts. We're kind of on the other side of it. And now there's YouTube. There's all these people. There's so much competition. When I did Pageantcast, I started in 2005.
Okay.
We're one of maybe 500
because
podcasts.
You've interviewed over 900 some women for different titles and whatnot. What's been your most favorite interview out of the 900 and something?
That's a really tough question. I always go to Miss USA. I think she was 2005, Shandy Finnessy. She's just, and she was on Dancing with the Stars a couple of years back. She was just a sparkling personality. And like I said, one of these pageant girls, you could literally ask her, what's your favorite type of air? You know, what's your favorite gaseous substance? And she would just sit there and be able to talk for 15 minutes. She was fantastic. Another one would be Mrs. International from a couple of years back, and a good friend of mine, Amy Gregorio. Okay. And I literally said, I'm going to ask you a question. This is how good she was.
Okay.
I said, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to time you, and I want you to come in at exactly 1 minute with your answer to this question.
Okay.
And I asked her what was her favorite type of monkey.
And did she give you the answer within 1 minute?
59 seconds, Ed.
Okay.
And she had no clock. Right on the dot. What is this? But she has a talent.
Yeah.
She had a talent.
Have you ever done a pageant yourself?
No, I haven't. I'm
Do you
a
ever
shy
want
person. No, I appreciate the beauty pageants as a viewer. Mm-hmm. I used to, when I first started getting into it, I liked it because it was a cheap night of live theater. You know, you can't go many places.
Well, I went to school for. I have a theater major with a radio, TV, film minor, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to the professional productions like in downtown Chicago, you're shelling out $200, right?
Yeah.
I do like high school productions as well of plays and things, but beauty pageants were all the time, and really it's reality TV, right? You're seeing this happen as it happens. You know?
And if it wasn't for my walking, I just want to let my viewers know today I'm at 1,300 days walking. So.
Wow.
Yeah, if it wasn't for my walking, I never would have done pageants. I never would have gotten all this bling on sitting on the table.
Well, I have a story to tell because I judged this young man, and last year we were well down a very long hallway to get to us, and we were waiting to interview Ed. And you walked, it had to be a block, at least like the length of a block before he got to us.
I was willing to do it, and I'm like, I'm going to stand for the whole interview,
He stood for the entire interview, and you knocked it out of the park. You did a great job.
What are some of the things you remember about last year that stood me out from it obviously was a tough decision because Haley had to break it by a tiebreaker. I think it was a tiebreaker, so it was... What are some of the things that stood up about my interview?
Well, I mean, Ed, what you bring to the table is you have so much passion.
Yeah.
You embrace everyday life, and you can tell that immediately upon talking to you.
Because I have a long-term goal of 2,000 days or walk independently, and I've only got 700 more days to go.
That's right. So, you're on the short half of that now.
So, but anyways, how many episodes of the Pageantcast have you done?
Okay, 732.
Okay.
And the actual, I just double-checked my count before I came on here. I am now up to 1,132 interviews total on those 732 episodes. Some of them are audio only, some are video only, some of them are not on the site right now because I like to shuffle them through. but we have a total of 732.
My question to you is, would you ever consider doing a male podcast?
You know, early on, I had to make a decision to try to keep this manageable because when I first started, I thought, I'm never going to have enough people to do on the show. And before I knew it, I was getting hit every day by 5, 6 people. So I decided that it was going to be female only and adults, teen and up.
Okay.
And I kind of have to stick with that.
Yeah.
You know, you got to stay with your brand.
I
You know that.
I know.
But I do have openings for pageant guest hosts that can do some interviews for me.
Oh, okay.
So we can talk about that.
Okay, we will talk about that. And I want to talk to you about possibly doing a documentary on my walking and, us putting together something so to give other people hope, like, about my walking, to give other people hope and let people know that they can actually do it. And pageants isn't just a female thing, it's a male thing too. As you can see from the table, I want to do a little talk about these sashes over here. That one I won. The national supreme title was by American Majestics organization, and Laura Lynn Morgan, that was in Ohio, and she's an amazing director, and she treats everybody like family. And then here's my Uniquely You.
This one?
Crown, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
That is beautiful, and you can see I'm dressed in my attire.
Yes. Yes, you have the sash on, Mr. Uniquely You.
Mr. Uniquely You, and we're always looking for more. We're always looking for more guys because, like I said, pageants has a stereotype of just females, and it's not just females. And I did want to talk to you a little bit about the Miss American pageant thing that just happened a few weeks ago. I did want
strong opinions.
I did want to mention something about that because they're getting rid of the, I believe is it the swimsuit competition?
Well, they are definitely getting rid of swimsuit. There is some debate as to what they're doing with the evening gown portion of things.
And I got into it with a local radio host. I'm not going to mention a name back at home because he's like, you're competing. He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. I'm glad that they made this change because it would give a person like me, even though I'm a guy, if I was a girl, it would give me the confidence to do it. I'm like, I'm glad that they changed it because it would give a person like me, if I was a girl, the confidence to do it. And he's like, well, I don't want to go join Special Olympics now, do I? And I'm like, that wasn't my point. My point was that I'm glad that they changed it because a lot of other people are worried about how they look, their image, because they're not. It's mostly the physical appearance. It's not about the pageant system that Miss America's in. It's mostly about the physical appearance. I know they're judged on their personality too, but
yeah, it's an interesting decision that they made.
Are you glad that they changed it?
No, I'm not.
Or do you think they're taking some originality away?
I think what they're trying to do is drum up. I think it's a publicity stunt, frankly. And unfortunately, what it's doing is a lot of young ladies that have worked a long time to compete at their state pageants. I mean, they literally announced it before half the state competitions were about to happen, like 1 or 2 weeks before it. And they're like, oh, by the way, nationals is going to be a completely different criteria this year. Okay. That I don't think was cool.
That was the wrong thing to do?
I don't think that was cool. I also think they're trying to change too many things at the same time.
Do you think we change with the times too quickly?
Miss America changes when the wind blows, frankly.
No, I'm just talking in a general perspective.
In a general perspective. I would say that, I think people react to what's happening at the time, and sometimes you're making a decision that you wish you could take back later.
Okay.
I think this was a direct response to the scandal that they had with the emails with Sam Haskell.
Somebody says it was because of some guys made sexist comments or whatever. That's why they changed it. That's what
Well, that wasn't some guys. That was the guy that ran it.
Oh, that was
Sam
the guy that
Haskell.
ran. Okay.
Yes, and those emails had come to light, and it does appear that they are real. So I don't think that's anything that has been debated too hotly.
Yeah.
So he got ousted, and they went to an all-female board. And I don't think I think swimsuit had always been kind of on the, do we want to keep this or do we want to go to, a lot of pageants now have athletic wear. I guess the swimsuit part of things, I don't really care on that particular thing.
Yeah.
I do think they should have told other contestants before it just went out on Good Morning America.
Yeah.
And state directors and a lot of local directors did not know because they were contacting me asking for the press release.
Yeah.
So that's not cool when you're doing that to a completely volunteer organization. The part that I think is more troubling to me is that they're taking the word pageant out of their name and calling it a competition.
Yeah, they're calling it, yep.
And that evening gown is possibly going away as well.
They're getting away with too many original.
I think... And at that point, I do go, well, maybe you don't have a pageant anymore if you're taking everything out. So I think they were trying to change everything all at once.
Okay.
And frankly, for years the joke has been, Miss America, we're a scholarship organization, we're not a pageant. They made fun of that in Miss Congeniality throughout the movie.
And I won Miss Congeniality in Ohio, so are they going to sit there and make fun of me too? I mean, like,
well,
the
thing is,
because Miss Congeniality is kind of a girl thing too, and right. I won because I was supporting a lot of people, and they're like, hey, we know you're male, but you deserve it because you've been cheering us on all day, and
Well, Congeniality has always been one of my favorite parts of the pageant system.
Uh-huh.
A very dear friend of mine, Melissa Young, who was Miss Wisconsin USA. She's going to kill me. I think 2005.
Okay.
She had won Miss Congeniality every time she competed in a pageant.
Okay.
And in fact went to Miss USA, and I believe this is still true. She is the only one that has won Miss Congeniality by a unanimous vote. With 50 women,
Really?
she had gotten it. I believe I'm correct on that. I never heard that confirmed.
And the one in Ohio, there was like, let's see, 26 competitors. It was a small national one, but there was only 2 guys, so I beat out 24 women. I mean,
there you go. Fantastic.
For the Congeniality, so.
Well, you have a winning personality.
Is that what I have?
That's what it is. Yes.
So what benefits do you get from judging the pageant and seeing the contestants from year in and year out?
Honestly, judging is not my favorite. I usually rather would be covering the pageant. What people don't know is when you're covering a pageant, you can talk to the contestants a lot more than when you're judging. You get that 5 minutes in a room, and that's it. So you actually get to know the people a lot better when you're covering a pageant. But judging is it's a lot of fun because it's a structured approach to an interview, which I don't usually have. I'm more of a freewheeling, oh, you said that, now I'm going to say this. And you're also interacting with the other judges. My judges this year, Serena, and last year, Courtney, they were so much fun to work with. And by the end of the day, we were kind of reading each other as to, you're going to ask this question.
I'll even admit it. You in one of the videos, I think Courtney, you almost took Courtney's crown and was going to try it on.
Yeah.
In that one video, I'm like, yeah.
Yes. We got along great.
We want to go to some pictures now of you doing different stuff with the pageants. Who is that, Tim?
That's my pageant wife. That's Debbie Promoda. And she just got a new, oh boy, she's going to kill me. She just got a new title. It's a national title, if I recall correctly. So she has been in pageants for a long time.
Okay, and I think we have more. Who's that?
You got me on that one.
I'm testing your memory tonight, Tim.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. when you've done over 1,000 interviews, it's tough to remember everybody that you've had on the show.
And that's my favorite one because you're like, and you're like.
Yeah, that was shot.
Yeah, explain that one.
In Fort Worth. That was when I first got to Fort Worth, Texas. I was I the judge out there? No, I was emceeing that one. And I just got my selfie stick. And that is the unfortunate response to a selfie stick. Usually I take one nice one, and I say, okay, everybody get crazy. And usually the only one that looks crazy is me.
Okay, and then
they had a lot of fun.
And then we have more, okay? And that was from Uniquely You.
It sure is.
Not this year, but
That's last year because Courtney's there, yeah.
What's the most greatest thing, because it's a special needs pageant, what do you get from, just being there and just seeing the contestants?
It's a great way to network and meet people that you wouldn't meet on a normal basis. I drove an hour and a half.
We need to continue with the photos here. Yep. And that's me with all my bling on in Ohio. And I won the Mr. Diversity one too, and and then that's me and the whole crew from Ohio. So
fantastic.
And that's me with the Legacy King and I think she's another Legacy Queen. So, but next year in Ohio, I'm gonna be running for the Legacy King, the highest title in Ohio. And then that's me standing up as straight as tall as can be.
Look at that.
And next to the only other guy competitor there from in Ohio. So.
Fantastic. That's great.
And can we go to? I have a poem here. I want to recite the winning poem. You remember, Tim? Do you remember the winning poem that I did?
I sure do. You did it on stage, and everybody loved it.
Yeah. It says, "When I walk, but by me. When I walk, I feel free. When I walk, I feel more like me. I feel my leg muscles getting stronger, but by each passing day, as God gives me strength to do my daily task, whether it be dishes or a 5K, or chasing one of my nieces or nephews around as they play. Someday I hope to walk independently with my new legs, and I hope to feel God's glory inside me burn. When I walk, I'm at peace."
Fantastic. That's beautiful.
So, and I have one for Worlds, but I don't want to, I'm going to do it for talent there.
Save it for the stage. Save it for the stage.
I'm not going to, and I just want to let my viewers know, every day I walk now, I think about my dad, because my dad's been going through some challenges with his, he's been going through some physical stuff. And Dad, we all love you, and that poem was dedicated to you because you give me strength, and it will get you through it. And but just remember, if you want to try something new, like I always say to my viewers, if you want to try something new, give pageantry a try, because it's all one big family. Nobody judges anybody. We're all kind of on an equal playing field, and well, thanks for joining us. And if you have a show idea, just email me. Since my website is down, edwardcaster@yahoo.com. I don't have it in the graphics thing, but you can just copy that down, and we'll see you next time.